When I was in seminary, one of my closest friends was a wonderful woman named Amy Miracle. Amy is now the lead pastor and head of staff at Broad Street Presbyterian Church in Columbus, Ohio. During seminary, Amy and I often studied together, helping each other through our Old Testament, New Testament, theology, and preaching classes. We also played the sport of squash together so we could get some exercise and to take much-needed study breaks. In addition to her intelligence and many gifts for ministry, Amy has a wonderful sense of humor, and we often laughed about the fact that her last name was Miracle and that when she was ordained, she would be the Reverend Miracle, which she is today. We laughed even harder when we studied with our other friend, Betsy Priest, who now is the Reverend Priest. I'm telling you, you just can't make things like this up. Now, while I am not the Reverend Miracle, I am, along with you, going to be a Miracle Reverend today. For today is the day when we have chosen to work with God to bring about a miracle here in our very midst. Our challenge, as you know, is to raise $40,000 to fully fund our 2009 ministries, and considering the matchless heritage and stewardship of this congregation, I feel confident that we will rise to the challenge because miracles are a part of our Christian faith, our Wesleyan heritage, and they do still happen today. Of course, the first step in any miracle is believing that it actually can happen. Perception is key here because in the face of an obstacle, it is easy to give in, give up, or retreat into non-action. In a newsletter article written in November of 2008, my friend, the Reverend Amy Miracle, shared with her congregation in Columbus, Ohio, the following story from Peter Marty. It is about equestrian riders and how they overcome the barriers they and their horses must jump over in competitions. Seasoned teachers of the sport of equestrian competition will tell you that even the greatest riders face a common obstacle: their own perception. Some of the most respected equestrian study guides devote whole sections to the subject of the rider's perception. For the truth is that unless the rider can manage to approach the barriers with a certain anticipatory confidence, he or she will never become adept at jumping. One author shares this no-nonsense advice for overtaking hesitation. Take your heart, throw it over the fence, then jump after it. Take your heart, throw it over the fence, and then jump after it. With the times we are living in, we all know only too well the obstacles and challenges that life brings to us. Our initial perception of these obstacles might cause us to seriously consider retreat or some other way around the obstacle rather than clearing the bar. Yet our Christian faith tells us over and over again to live boldly in the love of Christ and to take risks as we live out our faith, trusting that God will help us over any obstacle in our path. For God promises to hold our hearts in God's hands, and God tells us that miracles still do happen, even today. Still, jumping into the unknown can be very scary. But it also is usually filled with amazing blessings beyond most of our imaginations. And the first step is for us to throw our hearts over the fence and then jump after them. I believe this is what young Jeremiah did when God first called him into the ministry. Jeremiah, upon hearing God's call, has a perception problem. He perceives only obstacles to God's call on his life, and he says to God, I can't speak well enough to do this. Oh, and by the way, God, I'm not old enough. Really, I'm not. And I'm not brave enough. Not going to happen. No doubt. We have felt this way too in the face of obstacles and difficulties in our own lives. Inarticulate for the task, lacking the maturity needed to make the leap, or, and most especially, deficient in the courage required to throw our hearts over the fence and jump after them. But God responds in this way. Jeremiah, I call you. I call you, Jeremiah, and I will be with you, always and forever. Miracles still do happen today. Throw your heart over the fence and jump after it. For the truth is that God needs all of us to accomplish the miracles. I want to say that again. God needs all of us to accomplish miracles. And God calls us, despite our not being able to speak perfectly, despite our age or circumstance, God calls all of us and promises to equip us to accomplish the task at hand, the miracle God is seeking to do. And all God asks from us is this: our willingness to serve, our willingness to offer what we have for God's purposes. This is an important point too, because God's call on our lives is a partnership. That is, God doesn't leave us alone to accomplish the calling. Instead, God's calling always comes as an invitation to partner with God in a place where the Holy Spirit is already at work.